Welcome into the Alabama Bass Trail Podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I'm Kay Donaldson, the director of the Alabama Bass Trail and the host for this week's podcast. And this is your podcast for the week of June the 9th, 2025, or your post ABT 100 Lake Eufaula podcast and the preview of Pickwick Lake, the final stop of the Alabama Bass Trail North Division, set to take place on June the 14th, Pickwick Lake, Florence, Alabama. So, a lot to go over in this podcast, a lot of storylines and everything. So, we'll go over all of that in just a little bit. I will say, in true Eufaula fashion, it was hot, scorching hot. First days we've seen 100-degree temperatures. On Friday, my truck registered 108 degrees. It was it was warm. It was warm, and the lake was on fire. There was a ton of fish caught all week long. Guys were there from Monday through Saturday fishing. I had guys actually reach out to me Saturday prior to the tournament that said, I'm just down here scanning. I went to lunch with a couple of people. I went to dinner with a few people, and all I heard was, I've spent hours upon hours upon hours of scanning. So they weren't interested in sticking a lot of fish during practice. They were interested in locating a lot of fish, but you did see a lot of guys casting. Personally, the people that I went to dinner with on Thursday night, one of them said, I never picked a rod up all day long. They were scanning. And so, again, it reminds me a lot of my time on the boat with Aaron Martins when I was down there in 2013. I did a writer's event with Phoenix down at Lake Eufaula. And for hours and hours and hours, Aaron spent time graphing. And there are lakes that is exactly what you should be doing. That is practice. And so a lot of guys spent a good bit of time down there. So a lot of guys from Tennessee I know went down on Tuesday night. They fished Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and then fished the tournament on Saturday. So I've got a lot to go over, and I'm gonna hold off on talking about some things into the third segment. But I did want to kind of talk about Lake Eufaula. New winners on the Alabama Bass Trail, Todd Beaver, Kyle Sellers. They took the win, but we'll talk a little bit about that in the next segment with them. 21:43 is what it took to win. Todd Beaver, Kyle Sellers, two more Georgia boys, 2 weeks in a row that we've been to Lake Eufaula, and Georgia boys take home the check. So we'll have to talk about that a little bit. But two ABT 100s in the books for 2025, and we have two new winners on the Alabama Bass Trail. We'll talk a little bit about the Lake Eufaula bait report. 91 teams showed up out of 100. We knew of 5 that weren't going to show up, but we did have 4 others that did not make it on Saturday. 65 teams weighed in limits. 72 teams actually weighed in one fish or more. 348 bass came across the stage. 346 largemouth, 2 spotted bass. 9 fish over 5 pounds. Big fish was 7 pounds. That was Jason Thomason and Timothy Hatcher, who also finished in third place. 1,038 pounds, 0.44 was total weight for the day. I do know Jason and Tim had a 1 pound dead fish penalty that cost them the championship. But they did take home the big fish, so that was a total of $11,000 they took home for third place. Zeke Gossett, Ethan King took home 7th place. They had 2102. They also took home the $2,000 Amherst bonus as well. So that gave them a $14,500 total. One thing I did forget with Jason Thomason, he did take home the Garmin trolling motor bonus. So that would be $11,500 for their third place finish. Todd Beaver, Kyle Sellers, as we've already talked about, 21:43 for the win. They took home over $25,000 scooting around in that Phoenix bass boat. Jeff Kitchens actually won the Phoenix Boats Payday Award. He is the original owner of his boat. So he actually took home an additional $2,500 as well. So really good tournament. And as always, Lake Point does a great job. It's a fantastic facility for hosting us. I got to stay in one of the newly renovated rooms there at the state park, and my, It is absolutely fantastic. Love all of the flooring choices. Really good, especially for people like me who could be coming in with rain boots on or whatever. The luxury vinyl plank is fantastic. The new shower stalls are fantastic. The bedding was amazing. Most comfortable bed I've stayed in, well, outside of my own house. It's one of the most comfortable beds. Pillows were great. I couldn't quite work the TV, but I don't watch a lot of TV, so that didn't really matter. But humongous TV in the room, just very nice aesthetics. All the chairs were very comfortable in the room. So really, really cool. I can't wait till they get the other half done in phase two, but just a really nice experience. A lot of recreational anglers down at Lake Eufaula. A lot of them wanted to come over and talk bass fishing with me in the parking lot. So it's always fun to be in Eufaula. You love to surround yourself with great fishing people, and it certainly is like that at Lake Eufaula. No surprise, really, when we're looking at the Angler of the Year points. Justin Bussey, Ben Webb sitting atop the Angler of the Year points, but in a very, very close second is Zeke Gossett and Ethan King. And I don't think that's any surprise to anyone. Um, I got to looking, and I'm going to probably just do a little bit of cheating while I'm on the podcast here. I don't know if y'all pay a lot of attention to the points the way I do, but Zeke Gossett and Ethan King are, I think, what most people feel like are a lock to take home the ABT Angler of the Year in the South Division. I think they're ahead by maybe 20 points or so. But I'm going to take a look right here at the Angler of the Year points in the 100s. They are just 2 points behind Justin Bussey and Ben Webb. And honestly, if they didn't have Pickwick this next week and they didn't have Lay Lake in 2 weeks, I would probably bet my house that they would be at Wilson. And yeah, Wilson's going to change a lot by November. But it would not surprise me at all if you didn't see Ethan's Phoenix and Zeke's Triton on Wilson Lake. Those guys just put in a ton of time on chasing down these elusive bass. So I want to look at the Angler of the Year race in the South Division because I think from most everyone's standpoint, okay, they're up 53 points. 53 points in the South. So most people would say that's a lock for them. I mean, they've got a ton of time on Lay Lake. Second place, Noah and Cole Godwin, who have a win on Lay Lake, who have a lot of good finishes there. Can they beat Zeke and Ethan by 53 places? And I like the Godwin brothers and I like their chance to win, but I don't know that they can beat Zeke and Ethan by 53 points if everything goes okay. And there's not some, boat issue or something like that. They just have so much time on that lake. They know what's at stake. I just have a feeling that they're not going to beat them by 53 places. So it's very possible you could see Zeke and Ethan win the ABT 100 Angler of the Year. You could see them win the ABT South Division Angler of the Year. Remember, they were leading going into Wheeler Lake last year, and Paul Davis and Josh Chappell were able to come back and take the Angler of the Year for them. So got to sting a little bit. You got to think that's sitting in the back of their mind. And, oh, hey, they're sitting in 21st in the North. Can they make it out of the North? We're going to talk about that when we get to the Pickwick section at the end of the podcast. But what a heck of a year those two kids are having. And I say kids, young men. They're my kids' age, so that's why I refer to them as kids. And we were talking about this among several groups of us, just the sheer importance of time on the water, and they certainly put their time in. I want to say I saw a post on Sunday that Zeke was there. And again, not fishing, not casting, not hooking fish, idling and looking and graphing and all the things. So, and I'm going to say this, when you're idling and you're at 2 and 3 and 5 miles an hour and it's 100 degrees, we had pop-up showers here and there, but it was hot. I can't imagine that's fun. I mean, maybe it is, and I just don't know it, but it did not seem fun to me. So, but hey, they're $14,500 richer for taking the time to do that. So congratulations to them. Congratulations to Todd Beaver, Kyle Sellers, taking their first win on the Alabama Bass Trail. 21:43 is what it took to get it done. And we're going to talk to them in the second half. We're going to talk about their experience on the Alabama Bass Trail, talk about Guntersville just a little bit, and then get on into Lake Eufaula and some of the techniques that they use there. And we'll get, kind of get all the lowdown as far as Lake Eufaula. They went out boat 86. So we'll talk to them about how that affected their day, and if, how many spots they did, all the things that you're going to want to know about how it went down on Lake Eufaula. So I do want to thank you for tuning in to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. This is a little hard for me today. I'm not going to lie. And we'll talk about that in the third segment, but this is not really what I wanted to do today. And we'll talk about that when we come back after talking with Todd and Kyle. But what I do want to do is celebrate their win. They deserve that $25,000. They get to hoist the big trophies above their head and call themselves Alabama Bass Trail 100 champions. And for that, they deserve the best I have today. So, and I'm going to give them that. So you guys stay tuned. We'll have Todd and Kyle on here in just a little bit and talk all things Lake Eufaula. So thank you for tuning in to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. We'll be right back.
Research and development is more than just time in the shop for us. It's time out here, sweating the details, making boats that work as well in the real world as they do on paper. From our R&D team to our anglers on the water, we have the knowledge and passion to build you the finest fishing platform in the world.
Welcome back to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. And as I promised in the first segment, your team that won Lake Eufaula ABT 100 champs, Lake Eufaula, Todd Beaver and Kyle Sellers. Welcome to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast.
Good to be here. Oh, yeah, no doubt.
One way to get on the podcast is to win an event. So 2 events in and you're already on the podcast. That's pretty good. That's pretty good.
I'm still shocked.
Well, I talked a little bit off camera, and Todd, you told me y'all fished some ABA stuff. You fished some Fishers and Men stuff, do a lot of team tournament trails between Lake Eufaula and Seminole. But first time to fish the Alabama Bass Trail, what made you want to jump in the 100s?
Well, I mean, just like I said, like I told you before we started recording, I mean, y'all run a really good tournament organization, and I like the way y'all have everything set up, and y'all are, to me, really good, good people to be around, and I enjoy fishing for y'all.
Good deal. Kyle, you mentioned you only got to come to Lake Guntersville for a couple of days. First time you guys had been to Lake Guntersville. What did you think? We had some crazy weather while y'all were up there.
It was cold, phenomenal lake, some very stout competition. That's one of the main reasons why we wanted to get in this, obviously, for the tournament on Eufaula, but just to kind of see how we stacked up against other folks. And I'm going to tell you, there's some hammers on that list in there.
I saw a post, and I believe it was, trying to think who it was. They finished 37th, and they said, we wanted to see how we would stack up in the Alabama Bass Trail. We've heard about it. We've read about it. We've listened about it. We wanted to see how it was. And they weren't too ashamed of their 37th place finish in this 100 boat field. And it is impressive. I mean, you've got Elite Series anglers there. Andrew Loberg won one of our ABT 100s, qualified for the Elite Series this year. Unfortunately, a couple of those guys unable to be there because Bass, changed some things around with their schedule, so they weren't able to be there. But I don't care if it's Elite Series guys or not. You got Zeke Gossett and Ethan King, who are leading the Angler of the Year points in the South Division by 53 points. They are now second in Angler of the Year points in the ABT 100. They were second last year, or leading going into the last tournament last year. Those guys spend a ton of time on the water, and I could go through the list and pick off former Elite Series guy Kelly J, Russ Lane. There's Chris Rutland, 6-time winner on the Alabama Bass Trail. There are no slackers on the Alabama Bass Trail 100. So Y'all got in. It did close pretty quickly, like 12 hours, I think, is what we sold out in. And you guys were kind of down there, like almost didn't make it in, but you did. So that was a good thing. Think somebody overslept or alarm didn't go off or something. Is that right, Kyle?
I can't exactly remember what happened, but I remember I was at work and I think I was supposed to be the one handling that. And I forgot and I called him and I was like, hey, we still going to do this? He's like, yeah. So I hopped on the
Good.
phone real quick. Luckily, it was still a few spots left and we were able to slide in.
Good, good, good. Well, glad to have y'all. Gunners really finished 55th. Didn't get a whole lot of time there. What was your first experience coming into the Alabama Bass Trail 100? Walking in that meeting, having that, all of that. Tell me what that felt like.
It was it was pretty cool to walk in there, and be around all those people in there. You got people like you said that fish the elites. Justin Hamner, he won the Bassmaster Classic. I mean, that's pretty cool to be able to fish against that caliber of anglers, and to be able to take home a victory. I mean, it's hard to do. It really is, and we wanted to really mainly do it just because it's going to be on our home lake, and which I wouldn't mind if we won at Gunnersville. That'd be even cooler. But no, it's awesome to be around, be able to fish against that caliber of anglers, and to be able to do good against them.
Good, good. Well, you certainly have done good. You took home over $25,000 of cold hard cash. I mean, that's not a bad day. It's not a
Not
bad
your
day on
average
$1,000
payday.
entry fee.
Not your average payday on a 1 day tournament.
No. And and that's what I think is so cool about ABT 100s. I know a lot of people would like to see us go to a multi-day event, but you invest $1,000. Of course, it's 3,000 when you fish all three, and you have to do that. So $1,000 entry fee, you got 25 times your money back. Wives, girlfriends, not sure what your relationship status is, but did they have some ideas of how they might want to spend some of that money?
Oh
He
yeah,
can
no
go
doubt.
ahead. I think he's already spent his.
I need to know. I need to know.
We yesterday we went to Lowe's to get a few things for around the house, and the next thing I know, we're looking at brand new granite countertops and refrigerator, stove tops, all kind of stuff. She's wanting to my wife. She's wanting to start redoing the house a little at a time. And I told her, I said, hold on now, we might need to slow down with these prices on these refrigerators and stuff.
I understand. I just got a reminder on my phone. Today was 1 year ago I signed the contract on this house. So I completely understand what she's going through. I'm fixing to spend about $10,000 in this front yard in a week or two. So I understand. I didn't win a tournament, though. That's the problem, is I didn't win a tournament. I don't have $25,000 of cash sitting there. So let's talk about Lake Eufaula. You guys drew out boat number 86. We get you out fairly quickly. Within 15 minutes or so, you guys are gone and out fishing. Talk about how far you ran for your first spot.
We ran down below the bridge. Actually, Wednesday and Thursday morning, I found some really good frogfish. I mean, I think you could have had anywhere from 21 to 25 pounds both mornings. They were just on a mayfly hatch up in the grass. There was a lot of fish there, some really big ones. And then with the water dropping, that fell off. It was, we still went and tried it. Did not get a bite there. Picked up and ran all the way down to Patala Creek on another spot where I found some big frogfish. They were gone. We ended up catching one, but called it out. So it was a pretty good run for our first stop.
Okay, so shallow bite, we heard all week that we felt like the shallow bite would play. I think a lily pad frog bite to me is one of the best bites in all of bass fishing. I love that. So that didn't work out. Todd, what was the next game plan?
Well, once the shallow bite didn't transpire, we decided that we'd go out there and check a few little offshore schools where we knew there was a good bit of fish on them. And once we stopped on the first one, didn't see anything there. We agreed that we'd go check two or three more before we ran back up the lake, and we ended up staying down there till about 10:30 or 11, I think, because each school that we stopped on, they were there, and they were biting pretty good first thing in the morning.
Okay. So are you typically, when we're at Lake Eufaula, it's a brush pile deal? Was it brush piles or ledge, or what were you looking at?
No, ma'am. The brush piles We honestly, I think I fished one in practice. Us being locals, we put out about anywhere from 80 to 100 piles a year. Uh, and once I fished one of the ones that's like always really good and didn't even really get a bite out of it, we just knew it was going to be a ledge deal.
Okay.
That's just what we stuck with all day and just grinded it out.
How many stops do you think you made, Kyle?
I'm going to say at least 30 to 40, probably 40. We almost ran out of gas coming back in. I mean, we were on E.
Wow. Well, okay, let's talk about depth and then also your bait selection.
So, I mean, depth, I would say anywhere from 12 to 30 foot. Main baits for us was a crankbait, a football jig, and a flutter spoon.
Okay. What crankbait?
Strike King 6XD, 8XD, and then we have the one he was kind of mentioning the other day that we've been throwing a little bit. I'm gonna leave that one up to him.
Up to him if he wants to let
right.
everybody know. Okay. Okay.
It don't matter. It's a dual hardcore bullet. I mean, I don't know why they're on clearance, but maybe Tackle Warehouse will get them back in stock. That way we don't have to order from Japan to get them. But I think that takes a little while. But it's just something that has just a little different action. Runs about as deep as a 10XD, and it's just something to switch it up whenever they've seen the same crankbait all week, is being able to get something that'll run as deep as the others, but have a different wobble and a different little rattle to it.
Okay. Okay. Was there a color that worked better? A color pattern that was better?
Shad, I mean, that's kind of just something blue or just any shad. I think I was throwing a sexy shad. I think he had a citrus shad on. So I don't really think the color made that big of a difference on the crankbait.
Okay.
That's just my opinion. Whether it's true or not, I have no idea.
Okay. But we've seen that at Guntersville too, where people will be throwing a rattle trap, but you'll bring out a little bit different bait, whether it be a Lucky Craft D7, something like that has a little bit different shake, a little bit different wobble, and that sound is just a little bit different and make them change. So we've seen that happen at Guntersville as well, especially when it's a February, Marchish timeframe when the rattle trap is really big there. What time do you think you had your first limit?
I think we had 16 to 16 and a half pounds on our second stop. We pulled up. He was catching them left and right on the crankbait. I was throwing a football jig, and we were honestly chunking them back because I don't know. Sometimes on Eufaula, the fish just die, especially coming out of 25 foot of water.
Mm-hmm.
And we were throwing back 2-pounders just because we didn't want to put one in the live well, and then it ended up dying. And so we started putting a couple in the live well, and I actually was throwing a football jig and picked up and caught a 5-pounder. And then after there, it just kind of took off. We started catching some threes. And so off of our second stop, not counting the shallow deal, we had 16 pounds.
What kind of trailer did you have on your football jig?
Trying to remember.
So Ultra 5-speed Carroll.
That's it. Yeah.
I was going to say, you catch a 5-pounder on a jig and you can't tell me what was on the back of it. I'm calling bull on that. And I bleeped myself. So Ben, you don't have to edit that. I bleeped myself. Unfortunately, these guys got to hang around with Miss Kay after the show, and they got to see some craziness go on. I try not to get crazy like that too often. So what time did you have your limit that you weighed in?
5 minutes. 5 minutes before we were due in at 4:15.
What was the last fish you boated? Or that
4
you called?
4.5
pounds. And what did it call?
A 3.5. It was a pound upgrade. Essentially, that fish is what got us up to 21.5. So, I mean, we could see the check-in boat. We were fishing to pick up. We had 5 minutes, and I picked up on the football jig and said, "There's no way that's a bite." It happened to be a 4.5 pounder. It was luck.
Everybody that I talk to, most everybody on this podcast says everything just has to go your way. Like you just have to execute. You have, and you do have to have a little bit of luck. I mean, that call being that close to the ramp, as tight as you were on gas. I mean, everything had to work in the right way for you guys to take home those big trophies. Which, by the way, how cool are those trophies?
Those trophies are awesome.
Shout out Miss Shout
I've
out to
already
Miss Sonia Emanuel from the Rustic Rooster for making those for us. I contacted her when I first thought about the Alabama Bass Trail 100, and I wanted something unique and different, and she delivered. And I just absolutely love those trophies. It's hard to give them away. I have a sample of one sitting here in my office that we kind of ran through a couple samples before we settled on that one.
They're built good. It's just funny. I won a BFL here a couple weeks ago, and that trophy lasted maybe 20 minutes. I broke it, and as we were loading up the boat, he tried to throw them through the dash of his boat, and they're still standing. So they're pretty good.
Well, take care of those trophies. Those are some of my favorites. Of course, the Angler of the Year belts are pretty cool as well. You guys are currently sitting in 18th, a little way out of the points lead. But what would it mean to be able to come in top 5, top 10 in that points at the end of the year?
That would be outstanding. I mean, that would be amazing. And we're gonna definitely put our time in at Wilson Lake and try to figure that place out. I've never been up even that far in Alabama.
Mm-hmm.
We're gonna try to figure it out and put on a good show up there.
Have you ever went smallmouth fishing?
I've never been. Never caught a smallmouth.
It's going to be a lot of fun. Wilson Lake, I think, will be a lot of fun. Depending on how much rain and current we've got going, it could be a smallmouth festival. I can't wait. I love Wilson Lake. I've got to fish on it a couple of times. It's a pretty small body of water, but for 100 boats, it'll be really, really fun. We've never gotten to take an Alabama Bass Trail there just because of the facilities, but that's kind of working itself out, and I'm looking forward to being there. Anything else that happened or anything else about Lake Eufaula? I think it's odd the last 2 times we've been to Lake Eufaula, we've had Georgia boys come over here and take the money home. I think the state of Georgia needs to start sponsoring the Alabama Bass Trail if we're going to give away so much money to Georgia boys.
Well, I'll say that the Alabama Bass Trail is ran like unlike anything I've ever seen. I mean, it was, you get the boat in and we pulled up and you started calling numbers. I couldn't believe it.
Yeah. We have a really, really good team. I say this all the time, and it's unbelievable what those guys and ladies are able to do, and they do it so flawlessly. I'm absolutely just blown away by them time and time again. Did you think that it was going to take 21.5 pounds during practice? What was your thought going into the tournament that you thought you had to take home the win?
My guess was going to be roughly 24 to 24 and a quarter. I think Kyle was somewhere around about 23 and a half.
Okay.
Walking up there to that weigh-in line and knowing we had 20 pounds, a little over 20 and a half, something like that. And when we were walking up there, we were thinking to ourselves, we did what we could do. We burned a whole tank of gas. We fished clean, didn't lose any key fish. So, I mean, we left it all out on the water, and it was going to be what it was going to be. And it was a big surprise whenever he said new leader. So, I mean, that's something that I'll remember for a lifetime.
Well, good deal. The show will air later on this year, probably somewhere around that November timeframe. We'll have this show up and running. But how cool is it? Wrap the TV show. You've got your Academy Sports and Outdoors Winter's Tackle Box has already been posted to the YouTube channel. It's already up on Facebook. A lot of things to do when you win an Alabama Bass Trail tournament.
Right. And it's super cool to me just because I watch all of that all the time. And then to actually get to do it yourself, and win one on your second try. I know how hard those are to come by, like I said, just from the competition, and to be able to do it on your second try. And then that's actually you doing it. It's kind of surreal. It is.
Well, when you beat Chris Rutland and Russ Lane, that's saying something. Shane Powell, Tim Fox, Jay Grogan, Ryan Ingram, a lot of big names down there on that body of water that have won a ton of money in the Alabama Bass Trail. So congratulations, guys. You are officially the 2025 Alabama Bass Trail 100 champions, Lake Eufaula. Nobody can ever take that away from you.
Thank you, Miss Kay.
Thank y'all for taking time to be with me today. There you have it, guys. Your 2025 Alabama Bass Trail 100 champions, Lake Eufaula. 21.5 pounds is what it took to win, and they got it done. We'll be back for the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast in just a moment. Y'all stay tuned.
Big banks only care about one thing: ROI. So when it comes to your small business, you can expect a big no. At AmFirst, we don't just invest in your business, we invest in you and your goals. With great rates on loans, lines of credit to help you grow, and business checking accounts. Because at AmFirst, business is personal.
Welcome back to the third segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. I am going to do my dead level best to present this next segment the very best I can and do my best to not lose my composure. So, but as most of you know by now, on Saturday was not a normal Alabama Bass Trail Saturday, and it wasn't because of weather. And it wasn't because of anything that that we could control. Saturday morning felt very much like another Saturday morning ABT event on Lake Eufaula. It was hot and muggy, a little bit of cloud cover that postponed our takeoff for a few minutes. We were expected to go out at 5 o'clock. I think we ended up starting about 5:10. But roughly about 20 minutes after takeoff, one of our anglers, 69-year-old Kenny Carroll, was sharing a boat with his partner, James Scott. Mr. Carroll collapsed on the front of the boat. Luckily, there were two additional Alabama Bass Trail teams in that immediate area, Justin Bussey and Ben Webb, and Rob Lee and Steve Winslet were in that immediate area. Immediately, one of the team members, Bussey and Webb, called 911. The team of Rob Lee, Steve Winslet immediately went to the boat as they are friends of Mr. Carroll's. Rob Lee gets in the boat and gets in the driver's seat while James starts the CPR on Mr. Carroll. They then call tournament director John Simpson and alert him that there's been a medical emergency and that they are headed back to the ramp. They've called 911. And John came and got me. I had literally just stepped into the live studio to prepare for live. John lets me know that we have a medical emergency and they are on their way back to the ramp. These are things that you train for, and these are things you talk about on a regular basis. But it is totally different when you're actually faced with one of these situations. John called 911 to verify that they were on their way to the marina store to let them know that that's where we would be. And one of our team members grabbed our AED machine. Our three certified CPR team members headed to the ramp headed to the dock along with myself. I don't know that our team will ever get the images of that boat flying into the marina like that out of our mind. But once they got there, James had been doing CPR and chest compressions for probably 10 to 15 minutes. John jumps in. He begins to assist with chest compressions. Frank Daganero assists with mouth-to-mouth. We are performing CPR, rotating Daniel Montgomery after John, and then James took back over. We continued to perform CPR until the medical personnel arrived on scene. And I honestly, guys, it felt like hours, and I know it wasn't. The Auburn Fire Department showed up first, and the ambulance service showed up. They were able to get Mr. Carroll's clothing off and assist him with the AED machine, start fluids, all the things, while we held the boat to the ramp. Our team continued to assist and help. If you've ever performed CPR, you know it is a very exhausting mentally and physically. John, Daniel, and James assisted in the boat while the rest of us assisted outside the boat with just trying to get the rods and reels out of the boat, to clear the area for the stretcher and all of the things. We performed CPR on the dock for around 30 minutes. I then left to meet the ambulance at Medical Center Barber, met the ambulance there. We were able to get him to the hospital. He did have a heartbeat when he arrived at the hospital. He was unable to breathe on his own, so they assisted him by doing an intubation tube, um, and rightfully so, in the way they should. They were not able to give us a ton of information about him until his family allowed them to. His friend Marty Murphy was there. Marty's brother was there as well. They were there practicing for the West Georgia Bass Club that was going to fish on Sunday. That Mr. Carroll was signed up to fish. So they were there. I got to stay there with Marty and his brother for a long time. And I got to meet Mr. Carroll's sons, Keith and Scotty, and Rebecca, Scotty's wife, his sister Faye and her daughter. Got to meet them, got to sit with them, got to be with them as they made the hardest decision of their life, which was to honor their father's wishes by disconnecting the life support. They made that decision somewhere around the 11:30 time frame on Saturday morning. That was Mr. Carroll's wishes via his living will. And at that time, we were told that nature would just take its course. Mr. Carroll had been sick. He had survived cancer. He had survived other heart issues. And he fought. He fought to be there for when his kids arrived. And the quick actions of his partner, James Scott, Rob Lee, Steve Winslet, Justin Bussey, and Ben Webb, the Alabama Bass Trail team, the paramedics, medical personnel, the people at the hospital, allowed him to have a heartbeat and be there for when his kids were there to say their goodbyes. Everyone that I've talked to, from Sylacauga Marine Trail to OGS Trail, to the number of anglers fishing ABT 100 that had fished with Mr. Carroll for years and years and years and years, his son Scotty said this is exactly where he would want to be. That he passed away doing what he loved. I was noticeably not on live on Saturday. I spent my time at the hospital to do everything that we could do from our perspective to help the family, to help friends, just to be there, to have someone to talk to not be alone in their grief. And so I was noticeably gone. I want to thank my team for carrying live, Luke, Darren, and Jason, Kenny, and all the people for carrying live and doing an amazing job. I want to thank the entire Alabama Bass Trail team, whether they participated in CPR or not. The firemen came out and talked to me after things calmed down a little at the hospital to let me know that their willingness to step in, their knowledge to know to step in, was why he was able to be delivered to the hospital alive. Daniel, John, Todd, Frank, Mark, Brody, Brennan, Danny, AJ, Tyler, Ben, Cole, who was there, Herbie Strickland. It's a day I don't think any of us will ever forget. It's something you don't expect to deal with. It's something you train for, but it's not something you expect to ever have to deal with. Mr. Carroll was a gracious man to the Alabama Bass Trail team. We have a number of photos of him walking across our stage with James. I went back and watched live for me calling out their boat number on Saturday morning. I have a little peace in knowing that he was doing what he wanted to do with one of his very best friends. James went back out and fished the rest of the day in honor of Kenny because he knew that's what Kenny would want. And as hard as that must have been, he walked across the stage and weighed in honor of his good friend. I spoke with Scotty, Kenny's oldest son. He gave me full permission to honor his father at weigh-in. At the time, we knew he had not passed. We knew he was still fighting, but he gave me full permission to talk about it. And I told him we would do everything within our power to honor his father and his passion for fishing. And I hope we've done that. To my ABT team, and that extends to the live team, the TV crew, the cameramen, all of that. I am honored to work alongside you. Your acts of selflessness and compassion and empathy on Saturday exceeded anything that I could ever expect or imagine. I am honored to have you men and women on my team. And I want to go on and say a couple of other things that sitting from the sidelines, you don't know. The Alabama Bass Trail has team members who do lots of other jobs. And shortly before weigh-in, a line of storms ravaged North Alabama, putting thousands, if not hundreds of thousands, of homes without power. 3 members of our team work for Florence Utilities and were called away about an hour before weigh-in started. Daniel Montgomery, Tyler Johnson, and Brody Montgomery were called away to Florence to help restore power to North Alabama residents. I know they had already had a horrific day, but they left and they went home and they worked until Sunday night at about 11:30, 12 o'clock to help their local residents have power, not knowing what they were walking into and not even caring. That was their job, and that's what they did. Later that day, as Danny Montgomery and Brennan Montgomery are headed home, and I want to say this, Brennan was my only fish runner on Saturday because his brother had to leave and go and restore power. And I watched that young man run and run and run in 100-degree weather to run those fish back and forth. And Mr. Danny on that blast-off boat. They've been up since 2:30. On their way home, Danny and Brennan encountered a tractor trailer that was driving erratically and crossed the median and had an accident. And they were the first ones on the scene to render aid. That's the kind of people that I get to work alongside every week. That's the kind of people that are taking care of you on the Alabama Bass Trail. The rest of us headed home to see the damage that we had, and luckily my family was spared. A number of my neighbors have damage, but luckily we were spared. Sunday was a day I just needed some outside therapy, I guess. Some time to just be quiet and let your emotions take over if they needed to. And there was some crying, there was some screaming, there was some silence, and some healing. Saturday was heavy for our team. And while I ask you to continue to pray for Mr. Kenny's family, Scotty and Keith, Rebecca, and Miss Faye, keep them in your prayers. Lift them up as often as you can as they navigate these next few days and weeks and years without their father, without their brother, without their uncle, without their father-in-law, I ask that you pray for Steve Winslet and James Scott and Marty Murphy and his brother and their families, as they were so close. Their wives, the Murphys, their wives came to the emergency room and they sat there and they talked, and they all talked about memories of Kenny. This is not just an angler. This was a friend that spent time in their homes. It was part of their family. Marty Murphy could spout off Mr. Kenny's birth date. He knew exactly how old he was. He knew this, he knew that. Time and time again, we take things for granted. The relationships that are built through a simple sport like bass fishing, or simple recreation like bass fishing. It was revealed to me Saturday, probably more than any other day, of the passion and empathy and compassion that is very much alive in our industry. Certainly it is on the Alabama Bass Trail. Thank you to everyone who's reached out to me. Continue to lift up the ABT family in your thoughts and prayers as they deal with what they saw and what they participated in on Saturday. They are, in my eyes, very, very much heroes. We're going to take a short break. We're going to come back. We're going to talk all things Pickwick Lake, Alabama Bass Trail North Division as we round out our season on Pickwick Lake here in just a few days. Y'all stay tuned. We'll be right back.
It's the moment when everything is on the line and precision, power, and control make all the difference. A moment over 20 years in the making, anchored on loyalty, trust, and support that goes beyond all expectations. A relentless pursuit of perfection. All born from a revolutionary idea to help you rule the water. Power Pole.
Welcome back to the final segment of the Alabama Bass Trail podcast presented by Phoenix Boats. Fifth and final stop of the Alabama Bass Trail North Division on Pickwick Lake coming up this Saturday, June 14th, out of McFarland Park. 225 teams signed up last year, and it's time to wrap the season. It's so hard to believe that too. I mean, this season has truly passed so fast. And it has been a season full of ups and downs and quirky things and crazy weather and all the things you've come to expect in the Alabama Bass Trail. But one thing has not changed. They absolutely catch them in the Alabama Bass Trail. So we're going to talk about Pickwick Lake. You know, I don't know what else you can say about it, but it's a big fish factory. Going to be real interesting to get there. It's great to wrap up things on Pickwick. Nice, fine facility there at McFarland Park. City of Florence rolls out the red carpet for us. And then the anglers. I mean, it took over 28 pounds to win in February there a couple of years ago or last year. And I don't know that we'll see 28 pounds, but I do think we'll be around that 25, 26 pound bag. I don't have Luke on here with me this week. He's headed to Arkansas. And honestly, with everything we had going on today, it just didn't seem like we were going to be able to get together. So I want to talk a little bit about Pickwick. There's certainly teams we want to watch. Mitch Mitchell, Candler McCollum's going to be one of those teams that you're going to want to see out there on the water. I'm sure they'll have a camera. Top 9 and points are going to have cameras as well, and let's talk about that. Mark McKegg and Tim Hurst, they currently lead your Angler of the Year points. They are 13 points ahead of Damian Willis and Tyler Kiker. Adam Bain and Chris Colley, they are 20 points behind. Hunter Davidson and Bryant Fikes, your winners from Lake Gunnersville, are sitting in 4th. Jake Bice and Briar Chambers are in 5th. Fisher and Ryan and Naya are in 6th. I actually talked to Ryan last week, and he says it's just kind of quirky out there. So we'll see what he means by quirky. 7th place, Blake Hall and Jeremy Lamb, sitting in 7th place. 8th place, Nolan Spencer and Jonathan Reese, your winners from Weiss Lake. Rounding out the top 9, Benji and Jonathan Seaborn, 769 is where they are in points. Just outside that, Luke, Kyle, and Arch Cornett, and Elliot Galt and Austin Swindle. Anxious to get back inside that top 9 and go to Hartwell, Wesley Sams, Craig Daniel sitting in 12th. And as we said, Mitch Mitchell, Candler, McCollum can certainly help their chances by winning at Pickwick. They are in 13th place. Jamie Smith, Michael Raines in 14th, and then Robert Story and John Kellett in 15th place. So there are your top 15 teams. The top 9 will definitely have cameras and trackers on their boats, so we'll be able to cover them on Saturday as soon as we kick things off. Takeoff is scheduled to be around 5:15, barring any cloud cover or delays. We will be out there around 5:15 blasting off boats. We'll do 5 hours of live coverage from Pickwick. I'll be interested to see how June versus February will change the number of boats that go left or go right out of McFarland Park. That's always one of the things that we talk about on the podcast and on live, is how many people will go toward the horseshoe or toward the dam and how many people will take a ride and run upriver. So it's going to be interesting to see, but we will have Jason, Darian, and Luke out on the water. I'll be back in the live studio holding down the fort there while they are out on the water. Today is, as you're watching this, is June the 10th. It is the last day of priority registration for the ABT 100 2026 season. Guys have until midnight to register during priority. You should have a text with your team ID and PIN number that you can go online and register. We are almost halfway sold out already on that. So I expect we'll have several come in today as well. Any team that is looking to register for the 2026 season, that would be on Wednesday, June the 11th, 5:30 a.m. I will be up and live watching registration. You can register at 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time. Again, make sure that you are tuned in to alabamabastrail100.org. Click on register and then start filling out your information. Again, make sure you're on the 100 website, Alabama Bass Trail 100, and not the regular Alabama Bass Trail website. But speaking of the regular Alabama Bass Trail series, 52 days away from priority registration opening up on August the 1st. Those teams have 14 days to register. So August 1st through the 14th is your priority registration. August the 15th at 5:30 a.m. Central Standard Time is when new team registration opens. That's 66 days away. Remember, we sold out in 7 minutes in 2025 or for the 2025 season. So make sure that you are logged on. We will be updating social media as we get closer of all the things, names, email addresses, all the things you need to register there, so that you have all of the things collected that you'll need to have. So those are the only 2 dates or 3 dates that we have to talk to you about today. So I do want to thank everybody for tuning in. Probably not my best performance today. I'm going to be real honest with you. But despite my enthusiasm today, I hope that you will subscribe, rate, and review the show on your favorite podcast app. I encourage you, you hear me say this every week, but this week probably more than normal, get out and hug and love on your loved ones. Make time for lunch. Make time to just go sit on the porch and talk. Hug them a little tighter. Be a little more grateful and thankful. Love on your fur babies. We are expecting more storms coming through the state of Alabama today. And I am sure Rickley will be right in my lap most of the day, and that'll be just fine. I do hope you'll get out and enjoy all of the great things God has provided for us. Get out and enjoy the great outdoors, whether you're in Alabama or your local state. And until next week, when we get on here and talk about all things Pickwick Lake, God bless. Good fishing, and we can't wait to see you at Pickwick Lake. Y'all have a blessed day.
Thanks for listening to the Alabama Bass Trail podcast. To learn more about the Alabama Bass Trail, make sure and visit alabamabastrail.org.